Part 14. Dimensional Chosen, Only I Know Saitama is the Strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 131. Boom. 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 The bombardment troops were firing non-stop. There were constant explosions. Along with the explosions, there were also the screams of countless pirates. This wave of bombardment has little effect on the masters. But on ordinary pirates, it's a lot of damage. Pirates are dying miserably everywhere. Haha, blow them up. Somewhere on the fort, an officer was loudly instructing the soldiers, keep firing, don't stop, attack them hard. Suddenly, a soldier pointed in the air ahead and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Captain, what is that?" When the naval officer heard this, he quickly raised his head and looked in the direction pointed by the soldier, and saw a person flying towards the side like an arrow. It's the enemy. Combat soldiers are ready to fight. The officer shouted, pulled out an axe, and looked solemn. A moment later, the figure had flown over. The officer saw that he was wearing an ordinary pirate uniform, not a captain-level expert, and he was relieved. However, the next moment, when the figure landed on the ground, the officer realized how wrong he was. He shouldn't judge people by their appearance. Boom. There was a deafening explosion on the fort. In the explosion, the entire fort was instantly shaken to pieces, flew up, and landed heavily. In just the blink of an eye, dozens of cannons and countless soldiers on the entire fort, then they were all destroyed. It's unimaginable that this was just the destruction caused by that figure falling from mid-air. The figure was of course Fang Ye. He couldn't fly. He just used his amazing jumping power to make it look like flying. And he just landed, not just with an ordinary attack, but with King Lu Buletin's ultimate move, the devil comes to the world. With Fang Ye's current strength. After he landed using this move, everything within 100 meters was destroyed. Ruined after this fort point, Fang Ye did not stay where he was. He jumped up again and landed directly at another fort point a few hundred meters away. Boom. When Fang Ye landed, the fort was also destroyed. Just 2 ups and downs destroyed 2 artillery teams. The movement made by Fang Ye immediately attracted the attention of the experts on the battlefield. Pirates here. Phoenix Marco looked at Fang Ye's figure and said in surprise, which team is this kid from? What a powerful force. Diamond Josa looked shocked, is he also on our ship? With such strength, he is not the captain. Foil Bista's face was full of weirdness. Whitebeard looked at Fang Ye with great interest. On the Navy side, the 3 generals, the warring states marshal, the lieutenant generals, and the masters such as King Shishibukai were all Fang Ye attracted attention. Mainly Fang Ye's move Demon God comes to the world, which made too much noise. It was impossible not to attract attention. Is this the Whitebeard pirates? Chatter chatter chatter, Doflamingo showed a charming smile. It's getting more and more interesting. Someone with such power shouldn't be a nobody. Hawkeye looked at Fang Ye with doubts in his eyes. Why haven't I heard of his name? Where did another master appear? Hero Garp gritted his teeth and asked. Marshal Warring States shouted anxiously at the phone bug. We can't let him continue to destroy, stop him. At this moment, Fang Ye has already fallen towards the 3rd bombardment point. There are only 4 bombardment points in the square. If they are all destroyed by Fang Ye, they will not be able to stop the Whitebeard pirates from entering the square. So, the Warring States Marshal seemed so anxious. As the Warring States Marshal issued the order, a lieutenant general closest to Fang Ye immediately started to move. Shave. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel shouted, and the whole person disappeared from the place, and quickly appeared beside Fang Ye. Just like a flash. Shaving is one of the Navy's 6 styles of physical skills, which can greatly increase the speed. And Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel is the best in the Navy in the use of shaving. After arriving at Fang Ye's side, Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel showed no mercy at all. He directly drew out his saber and slashed at Fang Ye. How dare a mere Lieutenant General come to stop me? Fang Ye didn't even dodge, and directly punched Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel. Since the crisis sensor did not alert Fang Ye, it means that Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's slash was useless to Fang Ye. Although Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's shave was of no use. It was very slippery and very fast. But Fang Ye was faster. Seeing Fang Ye's fist coming, Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel felt that even if he hit Fang Ye, he would be killed by this punch. I have to say that Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's sense was very accurate and saved his life. At the critical moment, Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel immediately changed his moves and placed his sword in front of him, and at the same time activated his armed color haki to block. Boom! A dull impact sounded. Under Fang Ye's fist, Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's saber was instantly broken into two pieces. Fang Ye's fist directly hit Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's body and knocked him away. Wow! Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel vomited blood while he was in mid-air. He survived. But he completely lost his fighting power. He killed a senior lieutenant general with just one punch. Fang Ye's attack this time scared countless people. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel was punched away. Really? The other party is just an ordinary member of the Whitebeard Pirates. What kind of monster is this? Countless Marines were frightened by Fang Ye's performance. In a corner of the naval camp, several people from reality were dumbfounded, looking at Fang Ye with shock on their faces. Who is this guy? The intelligence mentioned the Whitebeard Pirates. Are there any such masters? No. Absolutely not. This guy probably has the same identity as us, a modern person who comes on a mission. Impossible? Aren't there restrictions on this forbidden area? Anyone who has visited the forbidden area more than 5 times will not be allowed in. Yes. Why is he so strong even though we cleared the forbidden area 5 times and his overall strength is not even sea level? Oh shit. If I had known that such a strong man would join the pirates, and that the labor and management would also join the pirates, I would be in great trouble now. Don't worry, there are many strong men in the Navy, and they will definitely not let this guy continue to be arrogant. The last person was right. When the top brass of the Navy saw Fang Ye defeat the senior Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel with one punch, they were immediately shocked. Seeing Fang Ye continue to rush towards the third fort point, General Kizaru couldn't sit still. Paddling is paddling. As a member of the Navy, Kizaru didn't want the Navy to lose like this. Whoosh! The sound of breaking through the air sounded. Kizaru's whole body turned into countless light spots, and he instantly moved in front of Fang Ye. But I can't let you continue to destroy it. Kizaru's faint voice sounded, one of his feet was shining with golden light, and he had completed charging up. Young kid, have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 132. Whoosh! Kizaru kicked Fang Ye hard. At this moment, Fang Ye was in mid-air and had no way to avoid it. This is the disadvantage of not being able to fly. However, the crisis sensor only sent a weak warning. Explanation: Kizaru's kicks can't cause much damage to Fang Ye. The main reason is that Fang Ye's defense is too strong now. It is estimated that only slashes like Hawkeye can pose a huge threat to Fang Ye. Boom! A huge impact sound sounded. Fang Ye was kicked out by Huang Yuan. The force of Huang Yuan's kick was still very strong. Fang Ye hit the square and made another loud noise before stopping. Down. A big hole was made in the ground. Seeing this scene, many Navy cheered. On the turret of the third shelling point, the soldiers wiped their sweat. God, saved. If Kizaru hadn't come to stop them just now, I'm afraid they would have ended up like the 2 previous bombardment points, being destroyed by that terrifying guy. On the square. When the smoke cleared, Fang Ye's intact body was revealed. When many cheering Navy soldiers saw this scene, their mouths suddenly opened wide, and the smiles on their faces froze. Liar, liar, right? Why is he okay? He withstood a blow from the general and was unscathed? What kind of monster is this? Are the Whitebeard pirates the monster pirates? Many soldiers were so scared that they didn't dare to approach Fang Ye even though he was in the square. Even General Huang Yuan looked at Fang Ye in surprise. How terrible! Whitebeard pirates! Fang Ye looked at Huang Yuan in the distance, and suddenly smiled and said, Kizaru, your light speed kick is actually not that good at all. After the words fell, Fang Ye jumped up and rushed directly towards Kizaru. He actually launched a counter-attack towards the general. He was actually underestimated. Kizaru shouted Tian Kong Yun's sword. Suddenly, a large amount of photons condensed in Kizaru's hand, and soon formed a long sword of light as a weapon. This old guy is also very smart. He can see that Fang Ye's physical body is very strong, just like another Ayanko Kaido. Against such people, physical attacks are of little use. Only sharp weapons can hurt them. Seeing Fang Ye rushing over, Kizaru immediately raised the sword of light and struck out with the sword. Stab towards Fang Ye. Fang Ye immediately felt his eyelids twitching and goosebumps all over his body. This was a crisis sensor, a warning. In other words, Kizaru's Tian Kong Yun sword can cause harm to Fang Ye. Of course. Fang Ye is not a fool. He insisted on hitting Kizaru's sword of light. Fang Ye kicked the sword directly and kicked the sword of light aside. Although Kizaru has the speed of light kick, but this does not mean that all his attacks are as fast as the speed of light. If that were the case, Kizaru would have been invincible long ago. In fact, Kizaru can only move as fast as light when using his abilities. Normally, Kizaru would be invincible. The attack is faster than that of ordinary people. After Fang Ye kicked away Kizaru's lightsaber, he immediately rushed in front of Kizaru. Kizaru's height was more than 3 meters. Fang Ye, who was 1.8 meters tall, in front of Huang Yuan, he looked like a child. However, Fang Ye at this moment was far more ferocious than Huang Yuan. When he was close to Huang Yuan, Fang Ye directly punched Huang Yuan in the head. Boom! The air was shaken and exploded. A powerful shock wave surged out from Fang Ye's fist, directly shocking many naval soldiers on the ground to death. It turned out that others could be killed by the aftermath. As you can imagine, how powerful was Fang Ye's punch. But, it was useless against Kizaru. He saw that Kizaru's body turned into light, and he did not choose to dodge. Fang Ye's punch could not hurt him. It was like hitting the air. Same. It turns out that you haven't mastered armament haki yet? Kizaru's voice sounded, although your fist is very powerful, it has no effect on me. Fang Ye's face darkened, and he immediately distanced himself from Kizaru. Looking at Kizaru, who was slowly recovering, Fang Ye frowned. The elementalization of natural fruits is like a bug, which is really a headache. Ordinary physics attacks are completely useless against natural devil fruit abilities. Even if Fang Ye's power is twice as strong, he can't hit Kizaru. Only armed color haki and Kailu stone can restrain the natural devil fruit abilities. Function, able to attack their bodies. Thinking of Halu stone, Fang Ye suddenly realized something and glanced at the crowd fighting below. He remembered Smoke Man Smoker, who had a weapon in his hand. Made of pure seafloor stone, it can have a restraining effect on devil fruit users. Wang Luffy, the protagonist of the world of One Piece, once suffered a lot of big losses at the hands of Tobacco Man. Thinking of this, Fang Ye immediately jumped away from where he was and joined the fighting crowds on both sides. He had already seen the figure of Smoker, the smoking man. Seeing Fang Ye retreat, Huang Yuan was slightly startled. You actually ignored me. After the words fell, Huang Yuan raised a finger and pointed towards Fan Ye's back. Whoosh! A yellow laser shot out from Kizaru's finger. When Kizaru was aiming, the crisis sensor had already alerted Fan Ye. Fan Ye just turned his body to one side and easily dodged it. Kizaru was not surprised by Fan Ye. Karma could avoid it. In his opinion, this young man was terribly powerful, but he felt extremely strange, as if the other person was not from this world. Just when Kizaru was about to continue attacking, there was a sudden sound in his ears. There was a gust of wind. Without thinking, Kizaru quickly raised his arm to block it. Boom! A foot kicked from Kizaru's back. It was Marco the Phoenix. Kizaru, your opponent is me, Marco said with a smile. Hearing this, Kizaru looked calm, but felt helpless in his heart. This Marco does have the strength to fight with him, and the opponent's ability to heal himself is also very difficult, and at this time, Fan Ye had already rushed not far behind the smoking man Smoker. Smoker was killing the enemy, and suddenly he felt that he was in danger. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 133. On the battlefield. Smoker, nicknamed White Hunter, had 2 cigarettes in his mouth. Holding a strange-shaped weapon, he kept killing the rushing pirates. At this moment, he suddenly felt his scalp numb and felt that a disaster was coming. Before he could turn around in time, Smoker activated the smoke fruit without hesitation. The tall and strong body turned into white smoke in an instant. The next second, a figure broke through and punched a big hole in Smoker's smoky body. Pirates! Smorg looked down at the sloppily dressed young man in front of him. The bounty posters kept flashing in his mind, but he didn't find the corresponding face. Could it be that he recently became a devil fruit user? Smog was confused. Even for a devil fruit user, the power of the punch just now was too strong. If he hadn't discovered it in time, he would have been hit by this punch and his head would have been removed on the spot. Look, that pirate actually took the initiative to find the White Hunter. In the distance, each navy was staring at Fan Ye, paying attention to his every move. This face was so unfamiliar that the navy could not correctly assess his strength. Cannot make the most perfect countermeasures. Isn't this looking for death? Although Brigadier General Smoker is not as powerful as General Kizaru, his weapon is the Juju Hands of Sea Tower Stone. That pirate is a little stronger, and Brigadier Smoker's smoke fruit is completely defeated. After killing so many of our comrades, Brigadier General Smoker will definitely not let him go. At the same time, the high-ranking Marshal Warring States also discovered the situation here. That unknown pirate gave up the opportunity to besiege Polusalino and went to find Smoker. Sengoku rolled his eyelids and remained calm. For a moment, he, who had experienced many battles, couldn't figure out what the purpose of this unknown pirate was. It seems that the pirates came really well prepared this time. Not only did they avoid our sniper lines in the outer sea, but they also had such an unexpected combat force appear. It seems that Whitebeard has been planning this war for a long time, and he didn't even keep the devil fruit. After the 3 generals under the marshal, there is only one person left at this time. Sakazuki, also known as Akainu. At this time, he is sitting on his seat and looking at Fan Ye, who is standing with Smoker. Eyes flashed. Finally, the corners of his mouth raised, showing a disdainful smile. No matter how strong you are, you will still be completely defeated by my ability, but... Akainu looks at the Moby Dick not far away. The tall figure on the deck remains the same, no matter what happens on the battlefield, he remains unmoved. My opponent is not a little nameless pirate. On the battlefield, Smoker, who escaped the sudden attack, took action decisively after seeing Fan Ye's face clearly. 2 hands that turned into smoke struck out, shooting towards Fanya at extremely fast speeds. Looking at the two big smoke hands, Fanya didn't feel the crisis sensor prompt. No danger. Although Smoker is powerful, he is also a good player in the Navy. But the opponent he encountered today was Fanya, someone who could compete with the general. He will lose this battle. Fanya did not dodge, letting the smoke control him. You kid, you are really asking for trouble. Smorg's face appeared from the smoke, and the two cigars on his mouth were smoking. He was breathing rapidly and was a little angry. Smoker, we are waiting for you. Looking at the harmless smile on Fanya's face, Smoker was stunned, and then a shadow wearing a straw hat appeared in his mind. Before he could react, Fanya's trapped arms used force at the same time to break away the smoke that enveloped him. The smoke dispersed, and Smoker looked stunned and said in disbelief. So much strength, did you eat the fruit of power? You guess? Fanya laughed and punched Smoker, scattering the smoke around him. Seeing that the blow had no effect, Smoker recovered and laughed loudly. It turns out that you haven't developed your domineering skills yet, so physical attacks are ineffective against me. As he said that, a wisp of smoke came out of his body, and he took the weapon he was carrying behind him. 10 hands of sea tower stone. This is Smoker's weapon, and its entire body is made of sea tower stone, which is known as the ocean crystal, is the nemesis of those with devil fruit abilities. Smoker, who has amazing strength, wields this powerful weapon with a speed that is not inferior to that of a sword, and goes straight to Fanya's throat. He wants to win with one blow. Faced with this blow, Fang Karma didn't dodge. His right fist was stuck on his waist, and he had already prepared the momentum to accumulate strength. The next moment, it exploded with a bang. Boom! Fanya's fist inevitably collided with Halashi's 10 hands, causing a huge sound. What? Seeing Fanya's unfailing attack, Smoker was shocked. Didn't this guy's strange power come from the devil fruit? But pure physical strength. What the hell, what a monster! In Smoker's mind, a burly figure inevitably appeared again. The man known as the naval hero relied on a pair of iron fists to stop the attack of the Rocks pirates that no one could stop. Smoker shook his head vigorously. How could this sloppy unknown pirate in front of him be compared with a naval hero? He looked at the sea tower stone Jushao in his hand, the weapon that terrified countless pirates. The smoke fruit has no effect on the opponent's karma, so you can only rely on it. Die! Smog shouted loudly, and Halashi's 10 hands roared over and waved down heavily again. Drink! Fanya was already prepared, shouted loudly, and punched out again. Boom! Come again, boom! Come again! Boom! The two collided one after another, causing a series of roars. Countless people looked sideways at the battle here. Look, that pirate is actually fighting Commodore Smoker's sea tower stone with his fist. Isn't he a devil fruit user? It's such a terrifying power, I can feel it shaking my blood from a long distance away, I can't hold it anymore. I'll hide behind it for a while. What kind of monster is this? No wonder he was able to defeat General Porisalino twice. But he also couldn't do anything to Brigadier General Smoker. A group of Marines in the distance knew that they could no longer intervene in the battle on the field, so they whispered. General Akinu's attention was also attracted by the battle between the two, and his eyes flashed continuously. You didn't even take the devil fruit. It seems that your strength needs to be re-examined by me. Come again. Smog roared, and used all his strength to stab out the sea tower stone with 10 hands. I won't play with you anymore. Fanya murmured, put away the smile on his face, and suddenly turned sideways and slapped out his left hand, knocking Smoker's blow off course. His right fist went straight towards Smoker's face. Physical attacks are ineffective against me, don't waste your efforts. Smoker looked at Fanya's fist that was about to come, he didn't dodge it, and his words were relaxed. But the next second, the smoke that his whole body turned into was blown away. Bang! Halashishi lost his support in his hands and fell heavily to the ground. Smoker was speechless. It would take some time for his smoke body to condense again. Put it down. Smaj, who had not yet gathered his strength, looked at the scene in front of him and was furious. Fanya actually picked up his halashishi and wiped it with his hands, and then carried it behind his back. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 134. Stop, you bastard. Looking at Fanya's retreating figure, Smoker shouted. Suddenly, he discovered that until now, he didn't even know the name of the pirate who stole his weapon. Save it, now that the Halo Stone is in my hand, it will be easy for me to kill you. Fanya turned around and looked at Smoker, his face expressionless. Hateful. Smoker gritted his teeth, and the 2 cigars in his mouth were bitten off by him. They fell to the ground, splashing sparks on the ground. He had to admit that the strength of the pirate in front of him far exceeded his own. As long as Fanya is willing, he can be defeated at any time. After all, the nemesis of those with fruit abilities, the Sea Tower Stone, is in his hand. The battle just now had left him breathless and even a little exhausted. On the other hand, Fanya's face was just slightly red, as if he had just warmed up. How does this make him fight? What to fight with? Fanya turned around and walked towards the most important battlefield. He had a pretty good impression of Smog the Smoking Man, so killing him forcibly would be a bit contrary to his intentions. Hello, what's your name? Looking at Fanya's retreating back, Smoker shouted unwillingly. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind. One day, not only would he catch Wang Lufei with his own hands, but the man in front of him would also be put in prison by him. Just an ordinary pirate. Fanya didn't turn around and continued walking forward. On the battlefield, General Kizaru turned into streaks of golden light and was entangled with Phoenix Marco. Call, call. Marco was panting, squatting on a higher ground, looking down at Kizaru. Just now, the two fought several times. Kizaru fired several golden lights, all of which hit him, causing him serious injuries. Although Marco's Phoenix has the ability to heal itself, it is not unlimited. After several recoveries, his physical strength has gradually bottomed out. Marco knew very well that if there were 2 more battles like this, he would definitely fail on Marine Fando. Even so, he still didn't want to escape. Ace, you must live. Marco sighed lightly and stood up suddenly. He looked at Kizaru, his slender eyes full of disdain. Hey, old man, why are you standing still? It's not because you're tired, right? Oh. Faced with Marco's provocation, Kizaru was neither shy nor annoyed. He looked at Marco in surprise and said slowly. I actually still have the strength to stand up. It looks like I have to show some real skills. Stop talking big words and let's see the truth behind your hands. Marco mocked disdainfully, attracting all Kizaru's attention to himself. At the same time, the green flames ignited on his body again, turning into a phoenix and soaring into the sky again. 8-foot Megatama. Kizaru's hands became golden again, and a moment later, hundreds of golden energy bombs rushed towards Marco at extremely fast speeds. Marco's arms were blazing with flames, revealing the beautiful white beard on his chest. He faced Kizaru's attack without hiding. Puff! 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 Countless golden energy bullets penetrated his body, and he recovered in an instant as before. Crane Claw. Finally, Marco stepped in front of Kizaru and kicked Kizaru away with a sharp claw strike. Phoenix Seal. Marco didn't slack off and released a powerful shockwave in the direction where Kizaru flew backwards, stirring up bursts of smoke and dust. After several attacks, Marco stood on the spot, panting and looking in the direction of Kizaru's flying backwards. The smoke gradually dissipated, and a tall and thin figure walked out of it. Oh, he is indeed the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, his strength is really terrifying. After enduring this blow, Kizaru was a little embarrassed, and the navy coat on his body was badly damaged. He can still stand up. The admiral is also very scary. Marco's eyes were solemn, and blue flames were constantly coming out of his body to repair his injuries. The two stood looking at each other. Because of the battle between the two, the battlefield was crisscrossed with ravines, and explosion craters could be seen everywhere. It was shocking. Watching the battle between the two, a lot of things were solved. The pirate's lieutenant general, Ghost Spider, holds 8 long swords with twinkling eyes. It seems I need to take action. He touched the seafloor stone handcuffs around his waist, observing the opportunity and preparing to take action. I didn't expect you to be here. A cold voice came from behind. Ghost Spider's scalp was numb and he was covered in cold sweat. Life is returned. With a loud shout, Ghost Spider manipulated the sword tied by his hair and stabbed behind him with all his strength. At the same time, he turned around quickly and kept pulling the trigger in his hand. Bang bang bang. Don't waste your efforts. If you can hurt me, I will take your last name. Fang Ye did not dodge or dodge, letting several swords look at him, making a clanging sound of metal collision. At the same time, his left hand quickly opened and closed to catch the flying bullets one by one. You, what kind of monster is it? The Ghost Spider looked at the man in front of him in disbelief. His defense was so strong. Not only did he ignore the sword slashes, but he could even catch bullets. Die! A rough roar came from behind Fang Ye. Longzi, who was wearing a huge T-shaped metal mask, raised the metal giant axe in his hand high and struck Fang Ye's neck. The blow came fiercely, as if it was going to kill him completely. Move Fang Ye's head. Good chance, life returned. The Ghost Spider's eyes widened, and he manipulated his hair to entangle Fang Ye. He wanted to give Longzi a chance to kill him with one blow. Gee, that's really annoying. Fang Ye's eyes were cold, and he grabbed the Ghost Spider's hair and pulled it hard. The Ghost Spider felt the pain of tearing his scalp, and at the same time, his whole body flew feebly in the direction of Fang Ye. Bang! Next step, seconds later, the Ghost Spider appeared in front of him, with Fang Ye's hand stuck in his throat, his face turned purple. Let me go! Longzi yelled, and the giant axe in his hand was a few minutes faster. Puff! The giant axe fell, and blood splashed. Longzi looked at the scene in front of him and couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that the speed of the pirate in front of him was so fast. To this extent, he exchanged places with Ghost Spider in an instant, allowing him to bear this heavy blow. A huge gash was cut into his chest, all his ribs were broken, and his internal organs fell to the ground. Ghost Spider died in the hands of the Navy. You are next. Fang Ye wiped the blood on his hands, and his body rioted. His speed was far faster than the Navy's shaving, and he appeared in front of Longzi almost instantly. The next second, Longzi felt a force on his head. It rapped it with huge force, and then slammed it to the ground. Boom! Cracks were made on the ground, and spider webs spread outward. Fang Ye was speechless, and raised his right fist high and smashed it down. Boom! Longzi's mask was smashed. A dent was made, and the skull was deformed. Fang Ye's eyes were cold, and he punched again. Boom! The metal mask was completely dented, and red and white things continued to flow out from the gaps. Longzi's huge body twitched violently, and he saw he couldn't survive. Boom! Another punch. The mask was beaten into a discus, and Longzi died. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Bean Garden. Chapter 135. Long, Lieutenant General Luns is dead. In the distance, everyone in the Navy was also paying attention to the battle here. Everyone watched helplessly as Longzi, who was as tall as 2 or 3 people, was pinned to the ground and beaten to death with 2 punches. Gudong. Everyone swallowed their saliva and couldn't think of any words to describe the sudden appearance of this unknown pirate. Monster. I don't know who said it, and everyone around nodded. What a monster. I guess only the general can take action to deal with him. When did the Whitebeard pirates have this character? Could it be borrowed from the Red Hair? I heard that these 2 pirate groups have a close relationship. Impossible, absolutely impossible. I feel that he is stronger than Marco the Phoenix, and he is probably the #1 person under Whitebeard. General Kizaru is fighting the pirates, General Aokiji is injured, and only General Akainu is left. Everyone was talking a lot, and from time to time someone turned their attention to Akainu, who was in a high position, and the Warring States period. On the battlefield, 2 punches eliminated 2 lieutenant generals who were fond of sneak attacks. Fang Ye wiped the blood mixed with iron filings on his hands and continued to move forward. In his memory, both men liked to carry out sneak attacks. Ghost Spider successfully attacked and assisted Kizaru in defeating Aokiji. The other one was more miserable. He was pressed to the ground and rubbed by Whitebeard, and his face was shattered into pieces. Thinking of this, Fang Ye couldn't help but look back. His eyes fell on Moby Dick, and the only thing left behind Whitebeard was called the Vortex Spider, Squard. What's that brat's name? Why have you never seen it before? Whitebeard is holding a huge sword and asks Squard behind him. I don't know, I haven't seen him before. Judging from his attire, he should be a newcomer, but his strength. Very cool, ha ha ha. Whitebeard laughed boldly, as expected of my son. Squard nodded, silent, looking at Whitebeard's back with uncertain eyes, seeming to be hesitating. On the battlefield, Fang Ye suddenly accelerated his speed and walked towards Kizaru. Captain Marco. Fang Ye ran at full speed, with stone chips flying up with every kick. The force was huge. You boy. Marco looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar figure in front of him and didn't know what he was doing, but he still said sharply. Come on, the man in front of you is a general. Although I have consumed a lot of energy, my strength is still terrifying. You can't defeat him. Fang Ye shook his head and stood in front of Marco. What are you doing standing there? Go quickly. Seeing that Suping didn't move, Marco gave another order. Suping had no choice but to walk to Margiao and wave to him. Marco was stunned and subconsciously dwarfed him. Suping came closer and whispered to Marco after 2 sentences, the latter's face was greatly moved, with a look of disbelief. How do you know this? Suping leaned into Marco's ear again and gave a brief explanation in a few words. Immediately afterwards, Marco showed a confused look on his face. Ouch, you guys are too arrogant, I'm still standing here. Marco looked at Kizaru who made the noise, his eyes were tangled, but he quickly made a decision. He decided to believe Fang Ye for once. Then his eyes became frivolously, with one hand on the back of his waist, he imitated Kizaru's tone and said slowly. Oops, I'm a little tired. I'll step aside and let the newcomers of our pirate group play with you. As he spoke, his hands turned into wings, turned into a blue stream of light, and flew into the distance. It's really disrespectful. Are you leaving without my permission? Kizaru sneered, his hands glowed, brewing the 8-foot Megatama. Looking at the scene in front of him, Fang Ye suddenly burst into laughter. He appeared next to Kizaru almost instantly, tearing the air with his right fist and heading straight for Huang Yuru. Ape. A serious punch. Faced with such a terrifying attack, Huang Ape instantly turned into countless particles of light and narrowly avoided the blow. Boom. Although Fang Ye's fist did not hit Huang Ape, the fierce punching wind he hit the navy behind him. The battlefield was cleared in an instant. Countless sailors were beaten by this punch so much that they vomited blood, had broken bones all over their bodies, and cut off the breath of life. "It's really abominable," Tian Kongyun's sword. Kizaru shouted low, and condensed a large number of light particles in his left hand. In a few breaths, it condensed into a lightsaber and struck at Suping. The two had fought before, and Kizaru's 8-foot Megatama hit Fang Ye, almost it can't produce any effect. Only attacks like Tian Kongyunjian, which concentrates all the energy on one point, can cause damage to it. Of course, Fang Ye will not just stand there stupidly and let him slash. He dodged this attack with a beautiful roll. A dazzling blow. Seeing the two entangled together, Suping did not fall into a disadvantage. Marco let out a sigh of relief high in the air. "Kizaru, see you next time, if you are still alive." Leaving these light words, Marco's figure disappeared into the horizon. Snort. With a cold snort, Huang Yuan looked at Fang Ye. "You haven't mastered the armed domineering force, how can you fight me? I can dodge every punch of yours, but how many of my swords can you withstand?" Kizaru's tone became relaxed again, and he looked at Fang Ye with disdain. The meaning of his words was obvious, that is, I can make countless mistakes, but you can only make one mistake. Is it? Then give it a try. Fang Ye didn't say much, and directly took out Smoker's sea-lower stone 10 hands from his back. Huh? Sea-floor stone? How terrible! Kizaru folded his arms and looked at him leisurely. "But if the sea-floor stone doesn't touch me, it won't have any effect." "Then give it a try." Repeating what he just said, Fang Ye kicked his feet hard on the ground and headed straight for Kizaru. Fang Ye was very fast, as if he was flying close to the ground. He held the sea tower stone in his 10 hands in his left hand, and charged up his power with his right hand, and bombarded suddenly. No. Unexpectedly, Kizaru turned into golden light particles and moved quickly at the same time, keeping distance from Fang Ye. Boom! Waves of waves erupted from Fang Ye's fist, spreading at an extremely fast speed. The person in the center couldn't dodge. He was hit instantly and beaten into pieces. A serious punch. With a low shout, Fang Ye punched out again, once again destroying a large number of naval forces behind Kizaru. This pirate is really evil. Kizaru's face was gloomy, his eyes were sharper than ever before, as if he wanted to cut Fang Ye into pieces with 1,000 knives. This pirate, on the surface, was beating him, but his real purpose was to kill the ordinary navy behind him. With just 2 punches, the number of naval casualties increased by hundreds. Tian Kongyun's sword. With a low shout, the lightsaber in Kizaru's hand condensed again and stabbed Fang Ye. But Fang Ye's crisis reminder had been sensed for a long time. How could Fang Ye be hit by this punch? A beautiful sideways move to avoid this a sword strike. Fang Ye raised the corner of his mouth slightly and looked at Kizaru, who was closing his hand with a mocking look on his face. Didn't the opportunity come now? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 136. Seizing the opportunity for Kizaru's attack, Fang Ye took action decisively. He didn't hesitate at all. The opportunity was fleeting and he didn't know how long he would have to wait if he couldn't grasp it. Fang Ye's speed exploded and he appeared in front of Kizaru in an instant. "Old Huang Yuan, go down and have a rest." A confident smile appeared on the corner of Fang Ye's mouth. The heavy sea tower stone was in Fang Ye's hand, like a child's toy, and it was dancing to the wind. Kizaru was awe-inspiring, he had the domineering power of seeing and hearing, so the blow was enough to be fatal for him. As if he had expected it, Kizaru shifted his body slightly, brushing the corner of his clothes and dodged. The domineering power of knowledge. Fanya suddenly understood in his heart. Kizaru has a very strong power of knowledge. He is domineering and can avoid the opponent's fatal blow by listening to the sound. He can be one step ahead of his opponent in everything. This means that if Fanya does not have overwhelming strength, then Kizaru will be invincible. But already close, Fanya would not let go of this opportunity. Fanya's fists shot out like raindrops, hitting Kizaru overwhelmingly, each blow carrying a terrifying fist style. Kizaru could not transform himself for the moment. Become a particle of light and escape at the speed of light. You can only resist passively. The domineering energy that is so dark that it shines is wrapped around your hands, and you can defend every punch of Fanya. Hateful, this guy's strength is terrifying. Kizaru activated the shining fruit at the same time, and each punch had a light speed bonus. Similar to the light speed kick, the power is slightly weaker, but the frequency is much faster. Of course, he has to always pay attention to the 10C tower stone hands wielded by Fanya, which is the real killer weapon. If you accidentally get caught, you will definitely die. The two were fighting together in the sky. Every collision made a deafening roar, causing everyone to look at the two of them. Who is that person, who can fight with General Kizaru for so long? He's a former pirate, he's so strong. Sure enough, he took advantage of the Halo Stone and restrained General Kizaru, otherwise he would have been pierced by General Kizaru long ago. Don't worry, the general is invincible. The Navy on the field were talking about it, and they seemed to have unlimited confidence in Kizaru as a general. At this time, the battle between the two had reached a fever pitch. Fanya kept punching, but every blow was either blocked or dodged. However, Halushi Jushao did not even touch the corner of the opponent's clothes. Kizaru's weapon color level was very high, and even Fanya's fists were shaken to the point of numbness. Raging flames. Suddenly, Fanya turned his fist into his palm, and blazing flames sprayed from his palm towards Kizaru. What? Kizaru's intelligence predicted this blow, but the speed of the flames was so fast that it burned in front of his eyes in the blink of an eye. Armed color. The dark aura was dissatisfied with Kizaru's whole body and wrapped his body. Boom. The flames made an explosion sound and instantly enveloped Kizaru. The entire sky was dyed the color of burning clouds, extremely gorgeous. Suddenly, Fanya's eyelids began to beat. Crisis alert. Tian Kongyun sword. Fanya subconsciously twisted his body. Following a low shout from the flames, the dazzling golden sword followed closely. Fanya's clothes were scratched, and he could barely escape Kizaru's sneak attack. Oops, still missed. A tall and thin figure walked out of the flames and looked at Fanya leisurely. After many years of experience, Kizaru has learned to be calm in every situation, and it was also for my better practice of domineering. I pulled off the still burning cloaking his coat. Kizaru clenched his slightly tight fists. His eyes became solemn again. Kizaru guessed that the other party might also have the haki of the observation color, otherwise he would not be able to dodge his attacks every time. And the level of the observation color might be very high. Gao, after all, Fanya can dodge his attacks no matter how far or near he is. Oops, I'm a little tired. Kizaru scratched his short hair that smelled like burnt food with his right hand and said slowly. Little devil, I won't play with you anymore. After that, he turned around and left. Fanya stood on the ground and watched Kizaru turn into a ray of light and fly towards the rear of the navy. Sakazuki, are you still waiting? Kizaru arrived at the rear of the navy and sat down next to Akainu. His physical strength was almost at the bottom, and various parts of his body were injured to varying degrees. Akainu was unmoved by Kizaru's words and still crossed his legs. His eyes flashed, but he still had no intention of taking action. Just now, Sengoku told him a piece of information in a secret language that moved him greatly. One of the Yonko pirates, the red-haired pirates, will definitely come back. After all, they are about to be defeated. The one who executed it was his old captain, Roger's son. It was really embarrassing to be forced back by a new pirate. Akainu mocked, looking firmly ahead. The Whitebeard pirates are all monsters. Huang Yuan sighed, Fang Ye's figure. Don't be fooled by his appearance, be careful about him. It doesn't matter, it's not time for me to take action yet, besides, we haven't used up our trump card yet. Akainu's eyes shone brightly and he looked towards the Moby Dick. On the Moby Dick, the great vortex spider squard stood behind Whitebeard, his head lowered deeply, his face ferocious. Unexpectedly, the father he had always trusted, the person he wanted to rescue this time, turned out to be Gold Roger's son. He still remembers clearly what Akainu said to him just now. Now one of the two has been fulfilled, as long as Whitebeard's next actions are correct again. The great vortex spider Squard tightened the sharp knife in his hand, his eyes were cold. On the battlefield, Fang Ye carried the sea tower stone in his 10 hands and fought all the way. Except for the best among the generals and lieutenant generals, no one here is his enemy with one punch. Occasionally, there are difficult fruit ability users to deal with, and they can be solved with the 10 hands of sea tower stone. He is like a murderous god, not a blade of grass grows wherever he goes. In this case, the intermediate stage is also completed. 2 hours have passed, nearly half the time. Fang Ye was calculating in his mind and looked up to see a familiar figure. Doflamingo. As one of the Shichibukai, he now belongs to the Navy. I saw him walking slowly in the sky, with a cruel smile on his face, his fingertips shaking slightly, and several pirates were broken at the waist. At the same time, he also controlled several pirates and slashed his colleagues with knives. They watched helplessly as their former brothers could not bear to chop themselves, but died tragically under their own swords. They were heartbroken. At this time, Doflamingo, who was enjoying the screams of the pirates, also noticed Fang Ye looking at him, and his smile became even more ferocious. Go ahead. The index and middle fingers moved slightly, and the pirates who had been buried with parasitic threads suddenly turned around and rushed towards Fang Ye with sorrow on their faces. Little trick. Fang Ye's face was cold, and he jumped over their heads to avoid everyone's attacks. At the same time, he lit a flame in his hand and ignited the exposed thread. Ah! The rescued people fell to their knees, holding their heads and crying bitterly. Kill you, I want to kill you. Doflamingo. They waved the knives in their hands feebly and looked angrily at the culprit in the air. If you have this strength, you might as well kill a few more Marines. Fang Ye waved his hands to several people, walked forward slowly, and confronted Doflamingo. Kid, you are pretty strong. Are you a member of the Whitebeard Pirates? Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 137. Doflamingo walked down from mid-air with a ferocious smile, each step seemed like he was stepping on a step. Fang Ye's face was cold and he stared at Doflamingo. How could he not remember the man in front of him? This man was a very annoying villain in his previous life, the atrocity in front of him made Fang Ye hate him even more. I wish I could kill him quickly. Stop resisting and let me bring those of you who are out of control back on track. What about you, do you still want to resist? Fang Ye smiled disdainfully. He was familiar with Doflamingo. He killed his father when he was young, massacred the city as an adult, and had countless lives in his hands. It seems that you are very disdainful. You are just a pirate, so you should surrender obediently. This will save you some pain. Doflamingo opened his arms and shouted loudly. To Fang Ye, these words sounded extremely ridiculous. Disguising yourself as a strong person is just your cowardly rhetoric. Full of nonsense, Doflamingo roared and looked at Fang Ye with a ferocious expression. Stop struggling to your death and let me rescue you. After saying that, he jumped high into the sky. Birdcage. You are the strongest as soon as you take action. Doflamingo's body hung upside down in mid-air, and countless threads spurted out from the palm of his hand, heading towards Fanyi Cage. The birdcage was very large, and it enveloped many people in an instant. Among them. What's this? As soon as a pirate defeated his opponent, he discovered that he was covered with silk threads behind him. Each thread was crystal clear, as if it were made of crystal, and it was so slender that under the reflection of the sunlight, its existence was almost invisible. Look! It looked beautiful, but every thread contained the smell of death. The pirate reached out and touched it, and immediately made a cut that was deep enough to show the bones. It's Doflamingo, he takes action. What? They actually trapped us all here, we are the Navy. Sure enough, pirates are pirates, and their cruel nature has been engraved in their bones. When this battle is over, they must report it to the generals and kill him. Doflamingo's move has a very wide range, including a large number of marines. At this moment, they are extremely angry. They are obviously extremely vicious pirates. How can they be compared with their navy, which represents justice? While dealing with the pirates in front of them, they cursed at the same time. In the birdcage, the reactions of many pirates were completely opposite. Quick, kill these marines, Captain Marco will definitely not stand idly by. Ha ha ha, this group of marines can't tell the difference between us and the enemy, it makes me laugh to death. 2 more marines were killed. If you can still survive after this battle, you must have a big drink. I'll accompany you. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates looked at death as if they were dead, and they were so heroic that they slashed the opposing navy with all their strength. Doflamingo was floating in the air, looking at this scene, with a ferocious smile on his face. A group of ants, this is a gift to you. As he spoke, he stretched his left hand forward, and countless thin invisible parasitic threads floated down like snowflakes, instantly occupying the entire birdcage. This is his strongest method at present, and his goal. It is Fangye located in the center of the birdcage. Doflamingo witnessed him killing Kizaru with his own eyes and knew Fangye's strength. Then let me use these swarms of ants to drain your energy first, and then cut off your head with my own hands. The parasitic thread floated down, and countless people in the birdcage suddenly stopped moving. What's this? Why can't I move? A pirate's eyes were torn apart and he twisted his body with all his strength. But it seems that my body is not under my control at this time, and I am motionless. Not only him, but many other people also experienced this situation, each clenching their teeth and trying to fight for control of their bodies. Don't waste your efforts. Doflamingo slowly exhaled, looked at them ferociously, and grinned. Go and fight. As he said that, he raised his index and middle fingers slightly, and chaos instantly broke out in the birdcage. A group of people watched helplessly as they gave up on the enemy in front of them, and all moved towards the center of the birdcage, where the figure was burning with flames. Fangye activated his flame ability, burning all the parasitic threads around him. You have the nerve to call yourself righteous even though your means are ruthless. Fangye looked disdainfully and looked at Doflamingo in mid-air. For the sake of righteousness, sometimes a small sacrifice is needed. Doflamingo quibbled, clenching his right hand equally hard, and the birdcage began to shrink. How disgraceful! Fangye spat, looking at Doflamingo with piercing eyes. The next second, the stone under his feet shattered and disappeared from the spot. A serious punch. With a loud roar, Fangye had extremely strong jumping ability. He faced Doflamingo directly and punched out. What? Doflamingo looked shocked and retracted all the threads in his hand. He was using silk threads to form a cocoon around himself, trying to block Fangye's powerful blow. At the same time, he also activated his domineering power, dyeing the silk thread into the color of ink, emitting a dark metallic light. Drink. Fanya showed no mercy and punched out with a bang. Boom! Fanya's flaming fist hit the black cocoon, making a huge roar. The pirates and navy who were too close were inevitably impacted. Vomiting blood, fell to the ground limply. This war zone instantly turned into a Shura field. Click. Under the impact of Fanya's fist, the black giant cocoon gradually appeared cracks. What? Doflamingo hid in the giant cocoon, looking at the cracks made by Fanya in disbelief. Moreover, the cracks spread with unstoppable momentum, spreading like a spider web throughout the giant cocoon. Damn it, did the terrifying punch force directly break my silk thread? Gritting his teeth, Doflamingo separated countless threads with his hands again, trying to repair it. Fanya's eyes moved, and he turned his fists into palms. A large amount of high-temperature flames poured out, and a lot of them squeezed into the gaps. At the same time, the entire giant black cocoon was burned by flames, and the high temperature inside continued to rise, turning into a terrifying oven. This bastard, go to hell! Doflamingo roared, and the black giant cocoon was lifted by him. If he didn't do this, he would be roasted in an instant, or burned to ashes by the little bits of flames squeezed in. Faced with the crisis of life and death, Doflamingo acted decisively, dismantle the precarious defense and launch a counter-attack at the same time. Foot shave line. With a sound, Doflamingo's legs were wrapped with armed domineering force, and several threads shot out from the toes, kicking Fanya's waist at a very fast speed. Bang! Fanya didn't dodge, and he carried it. A solid one. Such attacks have no effect on me. Fanya sneered and punched again. Spider web wall. Doflamingo looked panicked and hurriedly formed a spider web in front of him with silk thread, trying to resist Fanya's attack. But how could the hastily formed spider web wall withstand Fanya's attack? The spider web was like a wall. Stretched, the huge fist only stopped slightly, and then continued to hit Doflamingo at an extremely fast speed. Hateful! Doflamingo roared angrily, wrapping his hands around his armed domineering force and blocking him in front of him. He planned to take the blow forcefully. Boom! Doflamingo was like a cannonball, flying backwards without any doubt, and landed on the ground. It stirred up a lot of smoke and dust. Fanya stepped on the spider webs scattered in the air and rushed over with the help of his strength. What an amazing boy, he can actually bring me to this point. Doflamingo stood up with his almost broken hands, closed his eyes slightly, and touched his hands on the surrounding rocks. But if you think this is all I have, you are really looking down on me. While the silk thread repaired the body, the surrounding rocks turned into pure white spider silk. My thread is inexhaustible. Doflamingo waved his repaired arm and regained his confidence again. My abilities rarely awaken, you are proud enough? Everything around you will turn into threads, and there is no way you can get close to me. Doflamingo confidently took steps towards the oncoming Suya, turning his feet into silk threads with every step he took. Huge white line. A huge amount of silk threads gathered around them, forming a wave and crashing towards Fanya. This is one of the skills after the awakening of the thread fruit. It is extremely powerful and can smash any target into pieces. It's a pity that your opponent is me. If it were other people in the Shishibukai, they might be killed by you, really or not. As he spoke, Doflamingo also waved his arms. The front ends of countless silk threads were wrapped with armed haki, surrounding it in the shape of flamingo wings. Thousands of arrows pierce the heart feather strike thread. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 138. Since it can't pierce your body, let's shatter you into pieces. The silk threads under his feet once again condensed into one force, slapping forward like a wave. Looking at the sea of white threads in front of him, Doflamingo let out a sigh of relief. This should be no problem. Doflamingo stopped and began to adjust his breathing. Looking at the massive spider silk in front of him, he really couldn't think of how many people could take on this combination of attacks. Still a long way to go. Suddenly, a confident voice came from under the white waves. Listen carefully, he seems to, still laughing. What, he's not dead yet? Doflamingo's eyes were shocked. He tore off his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. The sea of threads began to shake, as if a tsunami had been triggered. Then, the threads began to burn and were broken in the middle. A big hole came out, and a figure that frightened him appeared again. Fang Ye. He pulled off the remaining silk threads on his body and moved his body. It's really difficult, but, that's it. Fang Ye started to accumulate strength again, and the surrounding threads were swept up into the sky by his momentum. A serious punch. Fang Ye punched again seriously. The wind of the fist was wrapped in flames, like a sea of fire, dyeing the sky red. The sea of silk threads in front of me burned up in an instant, emitting the stench of burning horny skin. You are so strong, what kind of monster are you? Doflamingo yelled, and at the same time his ability was activated, and the surrounding objects gradually turned into threads. Fang Ye didn't give him this chance, and he kicked his feet and approached at an extremely fast speed. 16 rounds of sacred bullets, God's killing. Seeing Fang Ye break through his siege and attack again, Doflamingo panicked. He manipulated the silk thread that had just formed under his feet and used his sure kill. Originally, his powerful move, the target is the stronger person in the Whitebeard pirates. But at this moment, Suye poses too great a threat to him. This man has broken through his own attacks countless times, treating his thread as if it were nothing, like a god of war. Of course, in the eyes of Doflamingo and many marines, he was like a devil. Countless threads surged under his feet and were eventually twisted into 16 strands. Each strand was wrapped with high-density armed domineering energy and shot towards Su at extremely fast speeds. Karma, trying to penetrate him in mid-air. Go for it! Suye shouted coldly and threw the sea tower stone on his back with 10 hands. Damn it, I actually ignored this trick. I saw the sea floor stone's 10 hands passing through every thread that was shot at Suye, heading straight for Doflamingo. The silk threads under my feet have been exhausted, and they can't form a spider web to resist the flying sea floor stone. Hateful. Doflamingo twisted his body with all his strength and barely escaped the blow. But his ultimate move also lost its direction and was easily dodged by Fang Ye. That's it for now, I've wasted enough time on you. Su Ping stepped forward and punched out with his right fist, mercilessly. Doflamingo was extremely panicked at the moment. Even though he had the power of seeing and hearing, Fang Ye's violent and intensive attacks made him unable to withstand. Armed color. His body was dyed black and he was ready to resist. Boom. Doflamingo was blown away like a cannonball and hit the ground. It's not over yet. Fang Ye didn't stop, he immediately chased after him, and his fists rained down on Doflamingo. Even though he had armed domineering power, he was retreating steadily under Fang Ye's fists at this moment, and was extremely seriously injured. Finally, Doflamingo's body could no longer bear it, and his armor was blown to pieces. It exploded under Fang Ye's fist and turned into minced meat all over the floor. Little Lord. On the ground, Doflamingo's men watched the scene and shouted in grief and anger. Although in the eyes of others, Doflamingo is a moody captain and a cruel king. But many people regard him as the belief in life shows Doflamingo's personality charm. Therefore, many people rushed towards Suye with long knives. But you bastard, I'm going to kill you. Kill him and avenge the young master. Even if you die in battle, you cannot survive. I want you bastard to pay for your life for the young master, take your life. Several members of the Don Quixote Cotter Corps roared and waved their long knives, and rushed towards Suye. Hey, do I allow you to pass? A pirate appeared in front of them. A Mediterranean man with a cigar in his mouth and a long knife stood in front of them with disdain on his face. He had a white beard tattooed on his right arm and a ferocious mark on his face. Scar was so eye-catching that Suya recognized him instantly. Captain of the 15th team of the Whitebeard Pirates, Fusa. Get out of here, or you will be buried with me. Someone in the Cotter group had his eyes red with anger and roared at him. Buried together. Fosa took a puff of his cigar, with a mocking look on his face, and said. Then we have to see if you have the strength. In an instant, Fusa brandished the flaming sword, entangled with several people, and even had a faint tendency to suppress them. Thanks, Captain Fosa. Fang Ye said, he believed that Fusa could solve the problem and did not plan to take action. You kid, why are you so polite? Fosa turned his head while beating, showing a smile that he thought was handsome. Fang Ye nodded. Although he killed a Shichibukai and a general, the strength of the navy should not be underestimated. Besides, he killed a Kibukai and a general. The time given for the mission is only 5 hours, and there are less than 2 hours left. You must truly establish the victory of the pirates in these 2 hours, so that you can get the high-level rewards. Next up is you. Fang Ye carried the sea tower stone in his hands and looked up at the rear of the navy. Akainu still crossed his legs and looked unhurried. In the original plot, Akainu's attack directly shattered the pirate group's dream. Not only did it severely injure Whitebeard, who had relapsed, he even punched Ace through the chest, making this battle among pirates a joke. That is, falling from the sky. Someone noticed a few black spots gradually enlarging in the sky and stopped fighting. Ace. Fang Ye was attracted by the sound and smiled suddenly. The protagonist has appeared. Bang, the pirate ship that fell from the sky together with Wang Lufei and others caused huge waves. The navy rear. Garp, is it your bastard's family again? Luffy. Garp held his head in his hands and shouted in collapse. How come his 2 family members don't make him less worried than the other? Garp, is this the way to answer me? Warring States roared, saliva flying. At the same time, his appearance also attracted the attention of the audience. Mihawk stared at Wang Lufei with eagle eyes and whispered softly. Wang Lufei, that kid standing on the cusp of the storm. The Empress hugged her pretty face and said with relief, Luffy, it's great that you're okay. Wang Lufei, this guy must be eradicated too. Akainu sat in the back, his face became solemn, and then he put the realization on Fang Ye. But this guy is the focus now. At the same time, Ace, who had been silent for a long time on the execution platform, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the man shouting his name in disbelief. That was his brother, and the person he least wanted to appear in Malinfando. Luffy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 139. Wang Lufei's appearance attracted everyone's attention. Straw Hat, just rush forward and save your brother, and leave the rest to us. Yvonne fell from the sky, overwhelming several marines blocking the road, and gave Luffy a thumbs up. Thank you, little Yvonne. Go ahead, Fishman Karate. Death Wink. Boom. 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 The Fishmanjinbi took action decisively. Ivankov glared continuously, clearing a path for Wang Luffy. Don't let a little newcomer mess up the battle. Warring States stood at the top and issued orders to the phone bug in his hand. Kill them right where they are, don't go to all the trouble for a newcomer. After the order was given, a large number of Marines immediately surrounded him. At the same time, on the Moby Dick, Bucky, who was wearing a Navy uniform with the word Justice printed on the back, turned around and roared heroically. Ho ho, white-bearded Appa, we are both pirates and will deal with the Navy first, and then let's join forces together. Whitebeard showed a smile on his face and ordered to the phone bug in his hand. Then next, Decalban brothers. Here, Dad. What's wrong, Dad? The two brothers Whitebeard mentioned moved closer to the phone bugs in their hands, waiting for orders. Follow my command and command the Whitebeard pirates to attack the surrounding Navy warships. I get it, Dad. The two nodded, turned around and began to convey Whitebeard's orders. After a while, more pirates fought with the Navy. A large number of Navy rushed out at the same time to resist the pirates. Team 4, Team 11, follow my command and cover the Straw Hat Boy. Go. Tata is on. Looking at the fighting Navy, Fang Ye moved again. In order to reverse the situation of the battle, he had another target that had to be eliminated. Fang Ye squinted his eyes and looked at the strange-looking man who was 7 meters tall not far away. Moonlight Moria. Fang Ye knew that Moonlight Moria was taking the shadow fruit. He created a large number of zombie marines during the war on top, which caused huge trouble for the Whitebeard pirates to save Ace. He, it's up to you. The man who looked like a bat laughed strangely, stuffed the stored shadows into a large number of corpses, and created many zombie marines. Hey, is it fun? Fang Ye stood in front of Moonlight Moria and looked at him coldly. He, do you also want to be my puppet? Moonlight Moria suddenly launched an attack. Her shadow split into several bats. They were already behind Fang Ye and stretched out her hands towards his shadow. Your shadow belongs to me, he. Mariah smiled evilly, as if he had seen Fang Ye burning up in the sun. Ridiculous. With a sneer, Fang Ye lit up flames behind him, moving the shadow originally placed behind him to the front. What? Mariah was startled and commanded several other shadow bats at the same time to attack Fang Ye. A playful smile appeared on Fang Ye's face, a flame ignited in his right hand, and the shadow moved to the left. Damn it! Mariah manipulates shadow in anger, he has never been teased like this. As expected, Fang Ye's left hand also burst into flames. At this moment, Fang Ye's whole body was illuminated by the flames, making him unable to start. What should you do? Looking at Moria playfully, Fang Ye suddenly moved. He attacked decisively, making Moria unstoppable. He was tall, and his speed was much slower accordingly. Shadow Warrior. Moria activated her skills in a panic, switching places with the shadow, trying to avoid Fang Ye's blow. Expected that. In mid-air, Fang Ye smiled confidently, and instantly shot out the Halashishi in his left hand, inserting it straight into Mariah's throat. How do you know my abilities? Molia was shocked and asked in a hoarse voice. You guess. Fang Ye stood in front of him, smiled and punched down. One of the 7 martial arts, Moonlight Moria, died. On the Moby Dick, the whirlpool spider Skyard stood behind Whitebeard, looking at the fellow pirates who were constantly rushing forward, with cold eyes. Did not expect, what Akainu said turned out to be true. He no longer hesitated, quietly pulled out the long knife, and looked at Whitebeard's back with cold eyes. Stab. Skyard. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind. Before Skyard could turn around, he was thrown to the ground by a shadow wrapped in blue flames, unable to move. Marco, what are you doing? Whitebeard turned around, his eyes moving. Skyard's long knife pierced Marco's abdomen, and he was also locked tightly by Marco. Marco, let him go. Dad, but he. I said let go. Whitebeard's voice was filled with unquestionable majesty, and Marco had no choice but to do so. Yes. Marco glared at Skyard, pulled out his long knife and walked aside. Arise, my child. Skyard's face was ashen. Looking at Whitebeard who stretched out his hand towards him, Skyard shivered violently for a while, and finally burst into tears in Whitebeard's arms. He understood what a mistake he had made. "Sorry Dad, I'm obsessed, I'm sorry." Whitebeard shook his head and did not blame him. Tall and known as the strongest man, his eyes began to become gentle. "No matter what, you are my stupid son. Dad." Marco stood aside, let out a long breath, and cast his eyes on the battlefield, looking for Fang Ye's figure. He knew that if it weren't for Fang Ye, the unprepared father would probably be severely injured by the obsessed Skiyard. It seems to have failed. Behind the navy, Akainu stood up and looked at the Moby Dick on the other side of the battlefield. "Hey, Kizaru, can you guard the rear? Although my physical strength has not fully recovered, I can give it a try." Kizaru leaned back on the chair with a calm expression on his face. "That." Akainu straightened his hat and turned his gaze to the battlefield. "It's my turn to take action." Leaping up, Akainu's figure appeared on the battlefield. This Akainu finally took action. Looking at Akainu's back, Sengoku let out a sigh of relief. With his strength, he can definitely deal with those boys. Sengoku's eyes wandered to Wang Luffy, Jinbei, and Fang Ye. He was very confident in Akainu's strength. After all, he was one of the three most powerful generals in the navy. Akainu walked slowly on the battlefield, looking at him casually. He straightened his hat with the word justice written on it, glanced around, and finally landed on Wang Luffy, who was fighting hard with the navy. Ace's younger brother, Revolutionary Army Monkey D, son of Dragon, let's kill the pirates who demoralized them first. Fang Ye noticed his gaze and instantly understood his thoughts. He disappeared from the place with a kick and appeared in front of Akainu. "Hey, did I let you go?" Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 140. Admiral Akainu is finished, these bastards on the sea will die. We must kill that boy first. He has killed countless marines. Revenge for the navy, Admiral Akainu. Drive these bastards to an end. Kill. Seeing Akainu's end, the morale of the navy was greatly boosted. Everyone roared and rushed towards the enemy in front of them with their swords, fighting for their lives. Team 9, Team 11, stop them, Little Oz, why are you here? The Decalbane brothers were commanding the pirates, trying to intercept the navy, when they were suddenly attracted by a huge sound coming from behind. Little Oz, who was dozens of meters tall, was holding a huge broad knife and stamped on the ground with every step. Broken. Ace, I'm here to save you. Drink. Little Oz roared, and every step of the way, the navy was trampled into meat pies. This brat, Whitebeard looked at Little Oz, who suddenly appeared on the battlefield, and his beard was trembling with anger. "You bastard, get back here." Whitebeard yelled, but he didn't expect that Little Oz seemed to have not heard it and still rushed forward. "Sorry, Dad, wait until I rescue Ace." Little Oz stopped mid-sentence. As expected of a giant, they are really tall. Kizaru sat on his seat with his legs crossed. He didn't move because someone had already moved. The tyrant Xiong, who had turned into a killing machine, fired several explosions from his fingertips, hitting Little Oz. Oz. The people of the Whitebeard pirates became anxious when they saw this scene. "I'm stopping you here, go help Little Oz and don't let him become a target." Fang Ye waved his hand towards the foil Baistas who were approaching. In the original plot development, Little Oz rushed forward desperately to save Ace. The huge body suddenly became a navy. The target even had his hands and feet cut off by Doflamingo and several others, and was eventually seriously injured and died. However, this time Fang Ye was present. Thank you." Baista struggled for a while, but still couldn't bear to see Little Oz being used as a target, so he rushed over there and fought with Hawkeye. Seeing this scene, Fang Ye turned around with relief and stared at the General Akainu in front of him. So confident. He doesn't look like a rookie pirate. Akainu crossed his arms and took a look at the pirate standing in front of him. Although Akainu had never seen him on the bounty poster, he still did not dare to underestimate him. After all, his achievements were visible to all just now. If you are a newbie, you will know if you try it. Fanya carried the sea tower stone in his 10 hands and took action instantly. Bang! Fanya's fist and Akainu's fist wrapped around the armed color collided with each other, with a huge force. As a general, Akainu can release his armed color. The level is very high. The two of them fought for the first time and then retreated. This kid is so strong, no wonder Kizaru can't take advantage of him. Akainu whispered, clenching his numb right fist. After the first collision, Fanya's fist felt a little uncomfortable. As expected of Akainu, he is really strong. But he is not worried. Even if he loses to Akainu, there is absolutely no problem in escaping. Besides, the strongest combat power of the Whitebeard pirates has not yet taken action. Thinking of this, Fanya boldly took action and gathered his strength to fight seriously. Fist. Ah! With a low cry, Fanya punched out his fist again, and the violent wind of the fist, carrying the flames, wrapped around Akainu. Haha, I'm asking for trouble, let me show you what the real fire devil fruit is. Akainu laughed. In his opinion, Fanya's flames were far different from his own lava. Just like the difference between a lighter and a flamethrower. While laughing, Akainu's right hand turned into lava, preparing to extinguish the fire in front of him. Little flame. The next second, he was stunned. Because he clearly felt that there was a trace of burning heat coming from his right hand. Although it did not cause any substantial damage to him, it still shocked Akainu. Bang! Bang punched twice, Akainu offset the impact of Fanya's punch, and slowly stretched his right hand in front of him. This is the first time I've felt the warmth of fire since I ate the lava fruit. He raised his head and looked at Fanya, whose fists were wrapped in flames, and smiled. I can feel that you still have a lot of room for growth, but because of this, I want to kill you even more. Hell dog! With a low shout, Akainu's arms instantly melted into molten metal, and the force extended at lightning speed, attacking Fanya. Fanya's eyelids jumped wildly, and a thin layer of goosebumps appeared on his body. Crisis sensing. With such a big reaction, this blow will definitely cause damage to him. Fanya didn't dare to be too confident. Although he was lucky enough to defeat the weak Kizaru, he was facing the powerful Akainu at this time. He rolled continuously, dodged this blow. Akainu's fist hit the ground, melting the ground immediately. What a terrifying lethality. Fanya took a breath of cold air and sighed in his heart. It is indeed a lava fruit with the best attack power among the 3 series fruits. Apart from the temperature, the terrifying momentum cannot be underestimated. It missed the target, come again. Akainu was at ease, his right arm turned into lava again, and several hell dog shells were fired out, hitting Fanya. Fanya flashed wildly, dodging Akainu's attacks again and again. He was extremely fast. Arrived in front of Akainu in an instant, and hit the door with a punch as big as a sandbag. Akainu retreated instantly, and he noticed the Halo Stone that Fanya stabbed at the same time, the nemesis of Devil Fruit ability users. You can't fight him up close. Akainu murmured in his heart, his hands stretched out again, and there was another wave of Gatling like Hades. As expected, Fanya dodged it again this time. Seeing and hearing? You can avoid my Hades every time. It seems that your knowledge and color are also at a high level. Seeing that Fanya didn't speak, Akainu smiled, and his eyes gradually became cold. In this case, I wonder if you can dodge this move. Akainu's arms instantly turned into huge lava fists, and his body was buzzing, as if a volcano was about to erupt. Fanya's scalp was numb, and his right eyelid was twitching wildly. Crisis sensing. This was the first time Fanya felt such a reaction. I felt a strong sense of crisis, My heart was frightened, and my figure kept retreating. "Boy, you can't escape." Akina grinned, and the lava fist that was ready to go erupted instantly, like an erupting volcano, attacking Fangya overwhelmingly. This attack is extremely powerful and can easily destroy several super large warships. "You bastard, back off." While Fangya was running away frantically, a tall and familiar figure stood in front of him. When the man pulled with his hand, the air deflected, guiding all the lava to flow towards him. Ha! The 6 to 7 meter long sword was danced in the hands of Whitebeard, tearing the air apart. Bang! A white ball of light appeared on the top of the sword and collided with the lava.